Hi, everybody. It's Ricky Heller from rickyheller.com, and I help people with dietary restrictions learn to eat, cook, and love their food again without feeling deprived so that they can continue to heal and get on with living their very best lives. And today I'm back to talk about part two of my 14-day no sweetener period. So some of you may have seen my last video where I talked about cutting out all sweeteners for 14 days, and that's over now. And I wanted to come back and report, well, two things: the results of what happened, but also, more importantly, what I learned over those 14 days. And I had a few questions about why would I decide to cut out all sweeteners in the first place, because I already don't eat refined sugar. In fact, I don't eat even high glycemic sweeteners like maple syrup or agave nectar or dates or anything like that. I eat really only very low glycemic natural sweeteners like stevia and xylitol and yacon syrup and monk fruit because I deal with chronic candida. And so, what would be the point really of even cutting those out is one of the questions I got asked. And so, if you know the detrimental effects of sugar, you know that sugar has so many negatives associated with it, from suppressing your immune system to causing all kinds of other chronic conditions or triggering other chronic conditions over time. And sugar is also extremely acidic in the body, which can encourage candida to grow and can encourage leaky gut and all kinds of, as I said, chronic conditions. However, things like xylitol or stevia are usually more alkaline, so they wouldn't cause those kinds of things. They wouldn't be part of that downward spiral. So why cut them out? Well, the interesting thing is there were two main reasons for me. I found I was relying on sweets a lot more, even though they were using those natural sweeteners, and I wanted to really delve into that and find out why. But also, you tend to combine sweeteners with acidic ingredients. So if I'm using xylitol for some baking, for instance, even if it's grain-free baking, I'm probably using a lot of nuts, which are not hugely beneficial in terms of someone who has digestive issues. Or you're using refined flours, like a gluten-free flour mix, so that's going to be more acidic as well. So overall, the foods that are associated with those sweeteners, by the time you complete some recipe using those sweeteners, you've created a food that, sure, may be much more healthful than other desserts or other sweeteners, but it's not exactly the top of the line healthful kind of food. It should be a treat. It shouldn't be something you eat every day, which is where I was sort of getting to. So that was why I decided to cut this out. And I talked a little bit about some of the more immediate effects last time. But what I wanted to mention this time, after the 14 days, one of the things I noticed, and it was probably the number one effect I noticed, was that there was a decrease in inflammation in my body. Now, I deal with chronic blepharitis, which is inflammation of the eyelids. And so I noticed actually quite a difference there. And I even noticed that my face felt less puffy. And this is from just 14 days. So as I said, even though the sweeteners I normally eat are alkalizing, by cutting out all of those additional ingredients that came along with the sweeteners, I think that had a major effect on the overall inflammation, because I was only eating whole foods, vegetables, fruits, and I do eat some fruits and some seeds and coconut, a bit of tempeh, that kind of thing. So these are not overly inflammatory foods, and I think there was an effect that I felt in that area. The other thing that I found fascinating was that for the first, I would say, 11 days, there were no cravings. So even though I'm totally a sweetsaholic and I love sweet things and I like to eat sweet things as often as I can get my hands on them, I did not notice huge cravings in the beginning. It was only the last few days where I started having those cravings again. And in thinking about why, I realized that it was probably a more stressful short period. So because I'm an emotional eater, it was that stress and those heightened emotions that tended to compel me towards the sweets. Now, I didn't eat them, but I did feel like eating them. And interestingly, I was eating fruits, but for natural sweetness, but that did not have the same effect. So what did I learn? Well, as I said, the first thing, and I think probably the most important thing, is that I could do it. So I think this is a great way to reset in terms of your eating habits. It's only 2 weeks, and it's really not that difficult if you have some good recipes to rely on. So cutting out all sweeteners for 2 weeks might be a good idea for people who just want to reset and sort of start fresh in terms of their eating habits. I was very interested to see if it would trigger some permanent changes in my eating habits. And I have to say, no. The answer is no. As soon as I stopped, I was back to wanting to have desserts again. And so what I learned was something very important about the reasons that I eat sweet things. So clearly, it's not because I'm having, the way a diabetic would, a crash in blood sugar levels, and I need to boost up my blood sugar levels. It's not because I'm hungry, because I certainly eat enough food every day, believe me. So really, the reason why I'm craving the sweet things is all up here. And I'm definitely an emotional eater, which I've known through the years. But the other thing I discovered is that there were certain habitual behaviors that tended to trigger that eating. And so that's a great way to approach change for the future. And I've been modifying the way I eat since then. And even in the short, it's been about a week, in the short time since I stopped um, that eating, the no sweets, 2 weeks of no sweets, I've noticed a change in my eating habits. So what I would say I learned in particular is that I learned a lot about why I eat. And I think if you're considering this, there are a couple of reasons to do it. And as I said, the first one is always just a nice reset. It's a great way to rebalance the body, reset. If you're looking for weight loss, that's not necessarily what's going to happen here, and that's not what I was interested in. I was interested in seeing what prompted my drive towards sweet things. So interestingly, I found for me, as I said, fruit was fine, no triggers there. However, chocolate is a trigger. So it's not the sweet per se in my case, it's sweet plus chocolate that tends to trigger further eating. And so that's something for me to be aware of and for me to work on. And I think that's the second benefit of doing this is the awareness that you will end up with in terms of why you eat the way you eat. So it's not just what you're eating, it's why you're eating. And those insights can be the first step to long-term change. So that's something that you might want to try yourself. I think also having a structure around how you make that change is very, very useful. So one of the things I'm working on right now is a new program called Reclaim, and it's all about sticking with your dietary changes. And so this was a great little mini practice for me during those 2 weeks. Obviously, I created massive change in my diet and the way I eat when I first started the anti-candida diet in 1999 and when I recommitted in 2009 and have managed to never cheat. I mean, I hesitate to say that because people don't believe me when I say I've never cheated, but I have never eaten sugar. I have never eaten gluten. I have never had alcohol. I have never had coffee. Any of the major areas of that diet, even since then, now that I can bring back fruits and I have brought back vinegars and I've brought back other foods like mushrooms once in a while. I've brought back flour products. I never, never, ever, even to this day, and this is 18 years into it, I never eat sugar and I never eat gluten, at least not knowingly. So this program is to help people who have had those kind of slip ups, who've gone on restricted diets, whether for candida or whether you're celiac or lactose intolerant, whatever it is that you need to do to reach your optimum health, but you're having trouble sticking with, that's what this program is for. And I'm looking for a very limited number of very committed people who want to go on this journey with me. And we're going to look at all of these factors that feed into, no pun intended, that feed into why we eat the way we do, why we slip up, and how we can ensure that that doesn't happen anymore so that you can have 18 years and beyond of eating foods that are actually good for your body, nourishing your body, healing your body. So keep an eye out for that. People who are on my email list at rickyheller.com/subscribe. If you're on that email list, you will be the first to hear about this program and be able to apply. As I said, it's a very limited number of people, a maximum of 15 people in this program, and we're starting in the new year in February. So that's something to keep an eye out. And as I said, I'll be talking a bit more about that. So I hope this information was useful. I think anybody can do a challenge like this on their own and by simply cutting out sweeteners and then keeping your eyes open and being in tune with what's happening in your body to see what are the effects, but also why do you have those eating habits in the first place and what can you change to ensure that you don't continue to overdo the sweets and the sugar. All right, thanks everybody. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up or share it with somebody that you think will benefit from this information. And I will see you next time. Have a great holiday, everybody, if you're about to celebrate. Bye.